Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep into Jamaican Christmas traditions today. Should be really interesting. We've got a YouTube video with Dr. Jawala and some of his memories of Christmas in Jamaica. And also we've got this blog article that breaks down some of the traditions.
Yeah, it's a cool mix of like personal stories and, just the facts about the traditions.
So she gives a pretty good picture of what we're looking at.
Yeah, for sure. So Jamaican Christmas is really interesting because it takes European customs and kind of mixes those with African heritage, creates something really unique.
Right.
To understand it, though, you kind of have to start with the history. Think about how slavery impacted how Christmas was actually experienced.
Yeah, makes sense. In the video, Dr. Jawala mentions that enslaved Africans would maybe get like slightly better food at Christmas. But I'm sure it was a lot more complicated than that, right?
Definitely. It was really complicated. Christmas offered a little bit of a break, Yep. But at the same time, it was also a time when there was resistance, like under the surface. The 1831 Christmas Day Rebellion is a good example, led by Sam Sharp.
Right.
And ultimately, it actually helped lead to the abolition of slavery in Jamaica.
Wow.
But that road to freedom, it was tragically paved with a lot of struggle and sacrifice.
Of course.
The rebellion, you see, it was trying to get better treatment for enslaved people. But it was met with a lot of force, and a lot of people, unfortunately, lost their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a reminder of how, history can shape these celebrations, even ones that are about joy and togetherness.
Absolutely.
Speaking of togetherness, though, both the video and the article talk about this sense of community that goes into getting ready for Christmas in Jamaica. So the blog article actually describes this thing called Christmas cleaning. And it's where everybody repaints their homes, the streets get whitewashed, and everybody dresses up in their nicest clothes. Like the whole island is getting ready for this big party.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really captures that feeling.
Right.
That feeling of renewal and the collective pride that they have. But it goes beyond just how things look. Dr. Jawala talks about these thrift clubs that he was in as a kid, and they would save money all year round to be able to buy stuff for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty deep-rooted tradition, supporting each other, sharing that responsibility.
I love that. And it's interesting how he compares that to, now with Jamaicans who live abroad.
Right.
And they'll send money back home, through Western Union or whatever.
Right.
To help their families prepare for Christmas.
Yeah, for sure.
It shows how even with the distance, geographically, those bonds are still there. They're still strong.
Absolutely. It shows how strong that Jamaican culture is, Traditions change, technology changes. But those core values like togetherness and support are still there, really at the heart of it all.
That's beautiful.
So let's get into some of the specific traditions, shall we? Starting with Jonkanu.
Okay.
So the blog describes it as this awesome street parade.
Yeah.
And there are all these really cool characters in it. The belly woman, the horsehead, the devil, even a pitchy patchy.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? All that energy and the spectacle.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. I bet there are a lot of different influences in there, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's got deep roots in African tradition, that whole spirit of masquerade and celebration.
Right.
It's kind of a perfect example of how Jamaica takes those different cultures and makes something totally new and unique.
Yeah, very cool.
So Dr. Jawala talks about his memories of Grand Market. This happens on Christmas Eve. It's this gigantic open-air market, just packed with vendors selling all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Clothes, toys, and, of course, tons of food.
Oh, yeah?
He compares it to Christmas Eve in the UK, where he was living for a while.
Right.
And he said that the streets there were super quiet, almost empty.
Oh, wow.
It just shows how Christmas in Jamaica is this immersive experience. You're out there with everyone, engaging with the community. It's this really vibrant energy.
I love that. Okay, so now for the part I think everyone's been waiting for, the food.
Ah, yes.
Both of our sources make it clear that food is like the center of Jamaican Christmas.
I'm sure.
We're talking sorrel, fruitcake, ham, pigeon pea rice, so much more.
Right.
The blog actually lists out some of the dishes, but it's really Dr. Jawala's descriptions that make it come alive.
Absolutely.
He talks about his favorite foods with such passion, it makes me hungry just listening to him.
He really does. He paints such a great picture. Like when he was talking about Miss Samuel's Christmas feast and how he had to loosen his belt buckle afterwards, that's real Jamaican hospitality.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like there's more to it than just eating.
Oh, yeah.
There's some deeper meaning there, right?
Definitely. So sharing food at Christmas, it's really rooted in tradition. Traditions of supporting each other and being generous. It's about making sure everybody has enough and then coming together, celebrating that. It's all about those connections.
I love that. So Dr. Jawala also mentioned some other things like getting presents.
Yeah.
And going to church on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Those are pretty relatable no matter where you're from.
Yeah, those are pretty universal.
And he had this really funny story about wanting to rush home after church to eat a Cleveland saltfish dumpling and banana with corn pork.
A clean is when they steam the food. It's delicious.
It does sound delicious. That's the excitement of being a kid at Christmas. Right?
Absolutely. It's that magic of Christmas morning, no matter where you're from, what traditions you have. It's about those special moments with your family, sharing something special together. And I think everyone can relate to that.
Totally.
It's really amazing how these traditions connect all of us, right?
Yeah, it is.
I've noticed as we're, going through these sources that there's this theme of being adaptable and resourceful, especially in how Jamaicans have shaped their Christmas traditions over the years.
That's true. Like we've been talking about, these big historical events, like slavery and emancipation really had a huge impact on what Christmas means in Jamaica. And then you have these examples like those thrift clubs from back in the day and how now people use like Western Union to send money back home.
Right.
Shows how Jamaican culture has really adapted and changed.
Totally. And you can see it, too, in how they blended those European and African traditions.
Right.
Taking all these different influences and making it something that's, like, really Jamaican. It says a lot about how resilient they are and creative.
For sure. And even with all that change, those core values are still there. Togetherness, generosity, that spirit of celebration. Still at the heart of Jamaican Christmas.
Absolutely. And this adaptability isn't just something from the past either. Think about how Dr. Jawala compares his Christmases in Jamaica to the ones he had in the UK.
Yeah.
Shows how traditions keep evolving, as people move and create new lives in different places.
Right. Those core values, it's like they go beyond just geography. Jamaican Christmas traditions, they find a way to live on no matter where people are.
Totally. It shows that culture isn't just this fixed thing. It changes and grows with people.
As we're learning about all this, I'm struck by how different it is from, that really commercial Christmas you see so much.
That's interesting. What do you mean?
Well, think about everything we've learned about. The community, sharing food, and passing down these traditions. It seems so much more real. Less about, all the stuff you have to buy, which can sometimes feel like it's what Christmas is about.
I see what you mean. Dr. Jawala's stories about the thrift clubs and that community support, that's definitely not about material stuff.
Right. It's not about who got the biggest present or the fanciest decorations. It's about, coming together, sharing what you have.
Yeah.
And just enjoying being together.
Yeah. Even the Christmas cleaning tradition, where they make everything look nice. It's more about working together. Community pride, it's not about showing off.
Right, exactly. It's like creating a shared experience.
That's it. And that focus on the simple things. Being together, enjoying food, celebrating with the people you love. That's what really stuck with Dr. Jawala when he thinks back on his childhood Christmases.
Yeah, for sure. So as we're finishing up this part of our dive, what would you say is the most important thing we've learned? What do you hope our listeners are thinking about?
I think it's that deep sense of community, the community that's in every part of Jamaican Christmas, like getting ready together, the energy of Jonkanu and Grand Market, how generous they are with food, just being with family. It's all about togetherness.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
I agree. And what's really inspiring is that it's not just for people who are in Jamaica.
Right.
It reaches out to people all over the world. Those who send money home, share stories, and hold on to those traditions, even when they're living somewhere else.
Absolutely. It shows how strong those cultural ties are, how important it is to keep them alive across generations, across the world. It's really beautiful to see.
I keep coming back to something Dr. Jawala said. It's about cherishing each Christmas because we don't know what the future holds. Yeah. It really makes you think.
It really does. It's like a reminder to, to be in the moment, appreciate the things that bring us together, and embrace that spirit of generosity and being together that makes Jamaican Christmas so special. Really, any celebration, if you think about it.
Before we go on to the last part of our deep dive, is there anything else you want to add about what we've talked about?
I think we've covered a lot, but I'm curious, what really stood out to you what are your biggest takeaways from looking at these Jamaican Christmas traditions?
Honestly, it's like the warmth, and how genuine Dr. Jawala is when he tells those stories. You can just tell how connected he feels to Jamaica and how much joy those Christmas memories bring him. Makes me think about my own family traditions.
Yeah.
And how those experiences make us who we are.
That's a great point. And it shows how powerful traditions are no matter what your culture is. All those rituals and moments, like the joy and connection, it's something we all feel deep down.
Absolutely. It reminds me that even though the specific customs might be different for everyone, the feelings are the same. The love, generosity, wanting to be together and celebrate, that's universal.
You're exactly right. And as we keep looking at Jamaican Christmas, I think it's important to point out how it kind of pushes back against that commercialized Christmas we see so much.
Yeah, that's interesting. What makes you say that?
Well, think about how important community is. And sharing homemade food, all those traditions that have been passed down.
Yeah.
It's very different from that whole consumerism thing, It can feel like that's all Christmas is about sometimes.
I know what you mean. When Dr. Jawala talks about those thrift clubs and how important it is to support each other, it's definitely not about stuff.
Exactly. And even with Christmas cleaning, they want to make everything look nice, sure, but it's more about everyone working together, that community pride, not about who has the best decorations or the most presents.
It's about sharing the experience, not showing off how much money you have.
Yes. And that focus on simple things, like being together, eating good food, celebrating with people you love, that seems to be what Dr. Jawala really remembers about his Christmases all these years later.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good reminder. The real spirit of Christmas isn't about stuff, but about those connections that really make our lives better.
It's about finding happiness in those little things, being grateful for what you have, and knowing how important community and generosity are. Those are values that are important all the time, not just at Christmas.
That's a really good point. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Jamaican Christmas traditions, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I hope they come away with a new understanding of how powerful community is and how important it is to cherish those traditions. Jamaican Christmas, it's such a great mix of history, culture, and those personal stories. It really shows how celebrations can bring people together, make them stronger, and bring joy.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And, as we've gone through all of this together, I've really been thinking about what Dr. Jawala said about cherishing each Christmas, appreciating the people we love. It's something that speaks to all of us, no matter who we are or how we celebrate.
It's something we can all relate to, no matter what.
So to our listeners, we want to leave you with this thought. How can we, in our own lives, in our own celebrations, capture that spirit of togetherness and generosity? That's what makes Jamaican Christmas so special.
It's a good question to think about as we come up on the holidays and even as we go through the year.
A big thanks to everyone for joining us on this awesome deep dive. Hope you enjoyed exploring Jamaican Christmas traditions with us. Until next time, happy diving.
Santa Claus is coming, balloons are blowing. Oh, I wish you, Merry, Merry Christmas, Merry, Merry Christmas.